Hello, everyone. I'm Muriel Gillick. I'm a physician specializing in geriatrics, the care of older people, based at Harvard Medical School. And I'm going to talk to you today about using telemedicine in the care of an older adult. Possible. I'm going to focus on the who, what, where, when, and why of telemedicine for a frail older adult. First, there's who. Who is you? You, the family caregiver, have a very important role to play in making this video technology work. You also have additional history that may be very helpful to the medical team. You may well be involved in implementing whatever recommendations come out of the meeting. And it's always better to have a second set of ears to hear what the doctor has to say. So what exactly is it that I have in mind for you to do when I talk about facilitating the video call? You're going to need to prepare for the call. You're going to need to manage the technology. Make sure that you have an appropriate device, ideally a computer with a sufficiently large screen, but a tablet or a smartphone may work as well, though the screen's going to be smaller. You have a role to play in adjusting the audio and even helping with the physical examination. The doctor may want to see your relative's back or ankle, and you can shift the position of the screen so that the doctor can actually see the relevant body part. Where are you going to have this video call? Ideally, wherever you provide family caregiving, whether it's in your home or your family member's home. Preferably, you're going to both sit where there's a computer or tablet and internet access. And it should be a comfortable spot, not like what this guy is doing here, hunched over a table that's too low. You want to be somewhere where both you and your family member can easily see the screen. When are you going to initiate such a call? Well, if your relative has an acute medical problem that requires input from a physician, nurse practitioner, or a physician assistant, you may want to initiate a call if your relative has a scheduled office visit, but you're in the middle of a pandemic and only remote visits are available. You may find even after the pandemic has hopefully come to an end, and even after scheduled office visits are possible, that's a lot more convenient to at least begin the conversation at home without having to get your older relative to the office. You or your family member may have a non-urgent medical question, and you really want to have the give and take of a conversation, not rely on email to get the answer to your question. And you might want to engage in advanced care planning in thinking about the future and what would happen if a variety of situations occurred. Why use telemedicine? Well, obviously it's crucial in a time when direct access to physicians and nurse practitioners and PAs is limited. This is the extreme situation of a hospital in the time of COVID-19, when you really don't want to take your relative to a medical facility if you can possibly help it. Telemedicine is important because, and your assistance is important because many older adults need help in using video calling. And it's essential because older adults with multiple medical problems are going to need medical input. The other problems, their heart failure, their diabetes, their COPD, those things march on even in the middle of an epidemic, and your family member is likely to need some medical input. I talked about getting ready, and the first part of that is assembling information. You want to gather your relative's medications, or at least an up-to-date list of medicines with the doses. You want to collect any data that you may have assembled: blood pressure readings, temperature measures, weights, blood sugar tests. Getting ready also means writing out your questions and any questions your relative has. And getting ready means making sure that the technology is ready to go. You want to be sure to have access to the computer or tablet or smartphone. You want to find out what video conferencing software the physician's office uses it and download it in advance if any kind of download is necessary. Ideally, you would do a dry run with a friend to make sure you know how the software works. You can greatly enhance the value of future visits by having a few simple medical supplies available to you. Those include a blood pressure cuff, a thermometer. It may include an oximeter or measure of oxygen saturation, a scale, a watch with a second hand, and possibly a glucometer. And I'll just show you very quickly what these look like in case you're not familiar with them. So home blood pressure cuffs are readily available, and they're certainly useful for people with high blood pressure, but they can also be helpful in other situations as well. So you should ask the physician about this. Thermometers don't look like the old mercury thermometers that some of us remember from our childhood. They're all digital these days. They come in a whole variety of versions: oral, rectal, earlobe, forehead. You have to pick what makes most sense for your relative. A pulse oximeter is a little device that clips onto the finger. This is a little clip here. And it tells you the amount of oxygen or the degree of oxygen saturation in the blood that can be helpful for someone with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or asthma. A scale is a useful device to have. You want to be sure that there's a large, easily visible digital readout. And then for individuals with diabetes, the ability to measure blood sugar is very important. And while most diabetics will know how to do this themselves, over time with a frail older relative, you may need to be the one who does the measurements. I also mentioned that you might want to take advantage of the video call to talk a little bit about what if in the future. And there are a few documents that might be useful to download in advance if this is a subject that you'd like to bring up or that your physician has indicated should be discussed. There is a healthcare proxy designation, an out-of-hospital do not resuscitate order, and a PULSed form. And I'll just show you quickly each of these. Healthcare proxy forms are the way that your family member can specify who it is who's to make decisions if he's not able to make decisions himself. And they vary from state to state. This is a Massachusetts form. It needs to be signed by the patient and by 2 witnesses who are of sound mind. An out-of-hospital do not resuscitate order is something that can be useful to guide ambulance drivers if they come to the home and you've already decided that your family member is not going to have attempted cardiopulmonary resuscitation. The paramedics need to know this, and if you've filled out such a form in advance and have it readily available, that will guide them. It requires a signature by both the patient or surrogate and physician. And finally, there is physician orders for life-sustaining treatment. These again vary from state to state. This is the original Oregon form. And in addition to specifying whether or not your relative would want attempted cardiopulmonary resuscitation, that's what's listed as A here, it allows you to say something about other medical interventions. Does your relative only want comfort measures? Does your relative want limited additional interventions? Does your relative want full treatment? And you may specify certain particular interventions, such as an artificially administered nutrition. And this is a medical order. It's not merely a wish statement. So it needs to be signed by a physician as well as by the patient. So these are just examples of documents that you might want to have available at the time of a video call. At the end of the visit, you're going to want to summarize your understanding of any changes in medications. You're going to want to be sure that an after-visit summary will be sent to you or sent to your family member via either mail or secure email. You're going to want to discuss an action plan and any follow-up that should take place. There are, of course, lots of other resources that can help you in your caregiving journey, addressing telemedicine and many other issues. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the book I recently published, The Caregivers Encyclopedia. I hope you have found these tips for using telemedicine helpful to you as you provide care for an older family member. The role of family caregivers is changing. I think you will find that there's more and more you're called upon to do, but a little knowledge and some technology and support can go a long way to making your role extremely gratifying.